Live from the nation of Texas, it is Hanok Young. And man, yeah, I mean, you look smart. Just sitting there.
It's just the chair and the office and the library. It's, I'm just borrowing it, this week and I guess next week too. Wednesday morning. Yeah, because then I fly out Wednesday afternoon to Bill and Rebecca out in Colorado.
Yeah, great. Well, hopefully Wednesday morning, because right now it is Thursday afternoon. And the reason for that is I woke up yesterday morning and we did not have internet. So with my internet troubles and you're traveling around and, seeing you're visiting in the nation of Texas and the things you're doing. But, I think, we've got normally about 30, 35 minutes that we do this program. I can't imagine that you would have anything really to talk about this week. Watching the news of Israel is just, it's almost like sleepy.
The thing that's fascinating is I've been reading kind of the articles behind the articles and the opinion pieces. And the big shock in Israel is that Sleepy Joe hasn't been as sleepy. But they've also noticed that there are no night events, none, zero, zip. So that's kind of interesting. But in any case, yes, Mr. Biden comes to Jerusalem, and it's really much ado about nothing. Yeah. Remember, signing a pledge or a pact isn't worth the toilet paper that people were hoarding. I mean, it really isn't. There is no treaty. Our Knesset is not in session and won't be until a new government after the caretaker government. So in other words, not even necessarily after the next election on November 1st. Then starts the whole, the courting dance of trying to form a government. So yeah, what this means, I don't know. Biden refers to himself as a Zionist. I would love if someone in his administration could define what that means. Then, people today on Facebook are outraged. They're going crazy because Biden called for a two-state solution.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah.
It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Da-dum-dum. What does it matter? Because look at the Palestinian Authority, quote unquote. Mahmoud Abbas. He's in the 17th year of a 4-year term as president.
Yeah.
Even if Israel wanted to give away, he said a second time for emphasis. I'm sorry, I'm just reading off the cue cards like President Biden does. So, when it says repeat the line, I repeated the line. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, let me go right there. Okay, so what do we have? We have in Israel, we have a non-functioning government right now.
Caretaker government.
Caretaker government. In the United States, we have a caretaker government. What a way to put it. And in the Palestinian organization, they have somebody that's getting on up there in age and look what's behind him. But Hanok, all your fears aside, let's just look at the last statement that's on the news. And I'm looking at Jerusalem Post of all places. As President Biden says this, probably off of his cue card, as long as there is a USA, Israel will never be alone. Hanok, there's something about that statement that just kind of, as long as there is a USA. And then I read chapters like Jeremiah 51 and places like that. It's like, okay, well, did he just say something actually instead of pathetic? He said something
prophetic. Possibly. Yeah. Listen.
Profound, yeah.
It was my very first speaking tour in the US in August 2013. I was at a Baptist church in Millbrook, Alabama. And the pastor there made it a point to me that he said, you know, the Western Hemisphere never appears in prophecy.
Yeah.
Now, I tried to kind of soothe his feelings that that's not necessarily bad, but his focus was, as we say in Aramaic in the Talmud, no bueno, not good at all. So here is Biden at like 150 years old, or at least he appears to be, still mumbling about running for a second term, but showing the irrelevance of the United States, which over the last several administrations, including that of Donald Trump, has been withdrawing from the world stage. So, you know, okay, so he announces the sort of back table, you know, or back room under the table deals with Saudi Arabia. Huge thing for the Israeli aviation industry to be able to fly across Saudi Arabia on the way to Asia. So that's good for the airlines, doesn't mean a thing to me. Muslims going on the Hajj, you know, to Mecca. Yeah, well, I guess, you know, for them, that's great. What else was pledged? Nothing. Biden was feeling bad for survivors of the Shoah. Again, he was.
I did not have time to look at it. I saw something about that he knelt in front of a couple of survivors and.
Okay, well, see, that's the thing that. Okay, let me. Okay, I know it sounds bizarre.
Yeah.
These are elderly survivors of the Holocaust who are in seats. So instead of bending over, he knelt down to be on face-to-face level.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it without having seen the picture, it sounds incredibly bizarre. What is kneeling down? You know, like, is he going to be knighted? You know, like they do in England? I don't know.
I think maybe he was practicing for his time with the with Saudi Arabia leaders.
Well, you know, it's interesting because Biden over the last few years has been one of the leaders of those attempting to demonize the Saudis and their lack of freedoms and all that thing.
Yeah.
But now, since America is incapable and unwilling to project a position of defense, I mean, you know, after arming the Taliban, what presence does America have anywhere in the Middle East? So they need the Saudis to get along with Israel long enough to defend everybody against the Iranians, because the Americans don't want to do it.
Okay, speaking of Iranians, so Putin is going to visit Iran, right?
Yep.
I don't know that there's any kind of warm fuzzy feelings that I have regarding that one.
Listen, to see Russia, China, Iran, throw in North Korea into the mix, getting closer together, there's no stretch. There's no like wow moment of like, hot diggity dog. I had no idea that would happen.
Yeah.
This is the way it's all lining up. And the destruction and devastation in Ukraine continue. And every week, either some Ukrainian governmental official, if not Zelensky himself, or the Ukrainian ambassador in Israel, blames us for not doing more for them. And it's bizarre. It's the whole thing is bizarre. But one thing, you know, I'm a little more than halfway into this trip into the U.S.
Yeah.
So I'm already like, you know, reeling, saying like, please get me home, get me out of here. One thing that's become very, very clear repeatedly is, despite my pleas, despite my encouragement, people do not look at the news from Israel. and they depend upon others, rumors and innuendo of what's going on and what's happening. And it's just, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to say. People repeatedly say, give me a source. So we give them Ynet News, we give them J-Post. Third and much lower on the rung, Israel National News. Mm-hmm. But I can't make them look at it, and neither can you.
Yeah, because I did a memorial service, as you know. I dropped you off at the hotel, and left you to fend on your own the other night, and then headed over to do a memorial service in Greenville. And I had somebody ask me, I think they were trying to be polite because of other things that have happened, but they said, "So you're going back to Israel? Well, what about the vaccine requirements?" And it's like, there are none. Okay, just go ahead and tell me that you're not interested. Don't make something up. And I'm going down the, I guess I was around you for a week. I'm trying not to go down your rabbit trails there, but it does. It at times it's just like, okay, if Israel's your focus, then at least take a moment in the morning to see what's happening. Okay, I mean, it takes me about 45 seconds probably in the morning to get an update on the news from Israel, the United States, what's going on, and move on from there. So hey, by the way, we had a great time last week in Franklin. It was good. Kaya misses you. Not really, but
we got along fine.
You did.
I tried explaining to her that her name is actually Chaya, but she looked at me quizzically and just didn't understand it. So that's fine.
Well, she hasn't had a lot of time with Hebrew. Okay, though she does have a pretty Hebraic name. I end up calling her Chia Pet. So that's another subject. Because that's what she looks like when she comes out of the pool at the dog park. But we had a great time on Shabbat. Afterwards was really a unique time with everybody getting together. And so far, the word that I've gotten back from people is that you and I had a few moments because of some Q&A there at the end. We appear on the surface, I guess, to we have a couple things in common along the way. We do have a destination in common, but in a session of a Q&A, we're able to really talk openly about how different planets we come from regarding some of our theology. Absolutely. And the response I got from that was, it was so encouraging to in the days in which people have to be so polarized and just yell at each other. We were able to just kind of work, we've been able to work through some things.
When people say mutual respect, why can't they imagine that?
Actually, I know. But I said to the people that on Shabbat that I believe that what we experienced, and you're seeing this in other places in the United States, not just at Life Assembly, but of course, that was your top event for the time that you're in the States. That what do we see? We're seeing a prophetic event that has not happened in over 1,700 years. And that is Ephraim and Judah talking to one another. And you can't get reconciliation until you have an open conversation.
Well, it's interesting. For all these trips, I was convinced that in the past that I was talking to Ephraim.
Mm-hmm.
As I share with you, I'm not so sure anymore that everyone that I've been speaking to who purports to be Ephraim or of Israel are.
Yeah.
So what I would prefer to say, the way I would describe it is that all who love Israel, all who claim to love the Jewish people as well, despite where we sit theologically, could, should, and need to be able to get to know each other, work together, hand in hand, without worrying about that some of the other is somehow going to rub off on us. Mm-hmm. Not to worry. Not to worry.
Yeah, it's that goes into conversations that we have, you and I have had numerous times. Yeah, but the whole concept that it's the two sticks, that at some point in time they have to turn toward one another and begin that conversation. And through that conversation, we find that it's like this memorial service that I did the other day. The pastor, great guy. I had a little bit of time to spend with him, but he was so. I mean, it was so apparent that he was so scared of anything being said that was Hebraic. But yet there was never a, hey, let's take a few minutes and talk about this or anything. It was like, you're over there, I'm over there. But we found out in the end, I said to him, let's discuss what we have in common before we discuss what we have that's differences.
But people aren't emotionally equipped and or don't have the maturity to be able to do that, whatever their title is, whatever their chronological age is.
Look, is it maturity, or is it their own identity is brought into question?
That's, wow, that is so great. First of all, it's generally not maturity, because look at me, and I'm able to do it. So it's not so much that their identity is being called into question, in my opinion, except by them. In other words, you have to be totally secure in who you are to be able to open up and build a relationship, an actual relationship with people who don't feel the same way that you do about things.
So the problem comes back to something, again, that you and I have talked about on numerous times. So I think we've hit it on this program a little bit, that when you're secure in your own identity, so if you are not secure in who you are, then you have a hard time talking with anybody else about who they are.
Or even about anything, or even getting into a conversation online in Walmart with someone. If you are so unsettled in your own skin, how can you project anything to anyone else other than, are you online? Or, are you next? Which is like,
interesting.
A second grade level conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So where are you you're in Texas. I know that. Where are you at this Shabbat?
This Shabbat, I'll be with Joe and Debbie in Crosby, Joe and Debbie Good. And then on Sunday, I'll be speaking in Austin, or right outside of Austin, to a joint meeting of congregations from Dallas and Austin. Wow. So that'll be a lot of fun. It's Shivar Sabbat Tammuz, the 7th day of Tammuz, a fast day. So that is not great, but hey, we'll get through it. Then, as of next Wednesday, I'll be in Colorado with our dear friends, Bill and Rebecca Smith. After that, I fly into Memphis, then on my way to Oxford, Mississippi, to a temple conference. that Joe and Hatikva Ministries is sponsoring. Then after that, I go to DeRidder, Louisiana. And then from DeRidder, Louisiana, back to Nueva York, and then back home.
Yeah, I mean, when you've been to DeRidder, that's just difficult to top that one. So you might as well head back to
really, that is the pinnacle of my speaking tour.
Yeah, I've been there.
My dear friends Joe and Heather and Out of Ashes Ministries.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the Temple Conference. Joe and I have met numerous times. We've never had a long time of talking, but when it comes down to it, Joe Good is whose library is behind you there. And interesting enough, if I had a library like that, I would probably look good, but I would never read it all. Joe has not only read all those books, but has memorized each one of them from cover to cover. I think. Joe Good was so instrumental in my life. Many years ago, this was late 1980s, when Joe Good had a program on Trinity Broadcasting Network, of all places, called Rosh Hashanah and the Coming Kingdom, is what he was teaching on. I can't remember the title of the program, but as someone who had just started reading the scripture for themselves, I turned on Trinity Broadcasting, and I mean, this is the days before VHS and before DVRs and YouTube and the internet and
the olden days.
The old days, yes. We would have to inscribe things on rocks and stuff like that. But Joe Good captured my attention with his teaching on Rosh Hashanah, the Coming Kingdom, then with Passover and various other things. So, a lot of what I do today, I attribute to Joe Good, and I'm so appreciative for him and what he has taught through the years. So, with that great thing being said about Joe, give us an idea. What will you're there with Edgar Ramos, you're there with Joe, with Rico. What will you give us a little insight into your take on the temple? What will you be talking about?
Okay. My piece is something that in all the temple conferences has never been spoken about before. And that is the current situation in Israel regarding the Temple Mount, where it stands with the Jewish people. What are the actual attitudes in Israel? What's going on, reality, not fantasy, regarding the concept even of the third temple? This is going to be a real biggie for me. And ironically, earlier this month, I actually began working on a series of, for lack of a better term, I'll call it educational modules, from my perspective, relating to what has happened on the Temple Mount, the historical background since the destruction of the temple in the year 70, and especially post 1967. And again, the perspective of what actually is going on in Israel, because that's one of the big areas of rumors and innuendo. I was sharing with you, someone had said to me not long ago, I heard, which is like, that's got to be like no offense. That's one of those like warning flares in the air that something weird is about to come out. I heard that the temple is already mostly built in prefabs and is sitting, in warehouses throughout Israel, ready to be put up.
Yeah, kind of a modular structure that's going to be coming in. And this is what people get when they look at the wrong news sources, such as the things that are that are out there on the edge. I'm not going to mention who it is, but
No.
things that are always out there on the
No
edge,
reason
the
to.
National Enquirer kind of thing.
Yeah.
So give me a nutshell. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes here. Give
Yeah.
me a nutshell of the attitude that you see of Israelis regarding the temple.
Well, the thing that's fascinating is there's a subcomponent of it that has gotten a much wider view.
Okay.
And that's the issue of Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount, which again, based on the status quo agreement, that term in and of itself is a loaded term between Israel, Jordan, the United States, et cetera, et cetera. But again, remember that everyone's, pet prime minister, Bibi Netanyahu, said just a few years ago, the status of the Temple Mount is Muslims pray, everyone else just visits. That's the former quote unquote right-wing prime minister of Israel. But let me answer your question directly. There is a widespread belief in Israel, and this is the most fascinating thing. Even from Yair Lapid, our caretaker prime minister, he said it just a few weeks ago as foreign minister, he has great difficulty understanding why Jews cannot pray on the Temple Mount. Now, here's a man who doesn't pray, period. But, you get in the face of an Israeli and say, no, because you're a Jew, you cannot pray. The fact that it's your single holiest site in the world, I mean, it's inconceivable. So I just noticed something the other day. Something came up on my Facebook feed. Join our efforts to build a third temple. So I clicked on it to go through. It's a consortium of 8 different organizations, one of whom is the Temple Institute. I knew some of the others, but they're generally unknown to the English-speaking audience. 8 organizations working together. Again, Rav Yehuda Glick, who we both admire tremendously, his Shalom Jerusalem Foundation. There are things going on. It's a process of education. It's a process of exposure. Like I do with my day tourists from Tourist Israel in Jerusalem, for 15 minutes, I'm showing them flip charts of pictures of the Second Temple so they can understand what was there and why it's important to us Jews.
Your statement by Bibi Netanyahu would be an interesting one to find the exact quote, a meme.
I'll forward it to you.
How about doing that? Or you could post it on Facebook, because I believe that single quote should be enough to have him forever barred from being anywhere in the Israeli government.
It so goes against my nature to be agreeable.
Yeah.
And even though you and Kathy showed me wonderful hospitality, but it's like, and it's a sense of people want to close their eyes, close their ears, close their mouth, but feel like they're participating in the dialogue.
Yeah.
And they're just not paying attention.
Yeah, no doubt.
Don't pay any attention to the man behind the curtain.
Well, hey, I got a surprise for you.
Yeah?
Yeah, just for you. Come here. Come on, up here. Hey, say hi to Hook. There he is.
Hey.
See? There's your favorite puppy.
Yeah. Hi.
Okay. See, it's that guy that you've been barking at all the time. She just came up. She heard your voice, I guess. So she came up to tell me it's probably time for.
I bring out reactions in everyone and everything, evidently.
Not going there.
No, let's not. Let's not do it.
All right. Hey, enjoy the rest of your time. Huh?
And, here in Texas, remember we were talking about how hot it was in North Carolina? Yeah. Yesterday went up to 114, but that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's tonight, by the way, it's getting down tonight to 61 degrees.
I truly scheduled it poorly. But anyway.
All right.
Have a good one, man. Bye-bye.